Howdy, my name's Dustin. I'm a huge Battletech fan, and I'm one of the owner-operators of Waystone Wargaming Speakeasy here in Seattle. And today I wanted to tell you about a fan-made campaign system for Classic Battletech that I've created that I'm calling the Force Command Primer. This is going to be a way for people who want to play games of Battletech with their friends to tell continuous stories through those games, without one of them needing to become a game master or an accountant on the side for all of the bookkeeping and management that's usually required. In terms of the scale of this campaign system, I drew a lot of inspiration from the really popular Battletech PC game that was created by Harebrained Schemes. What the book is going to do is walk you through how to make a thematic force of your own design, led by an interesting custom character. It's going to show you how you can pick a dropship, draft the units in your force, generate missions for them to embark on alongside the other folks that you're playing with, and then it'll also detail what sorts of rewards you can gain for each mission and how you can use those to maintain and modify your force as games go on. I'm going to illustrate how a lot of this works by talking you through the creation process of my own custom mercenary force, the Solemn Eclipse Hospitallers. The Hospitallers are a group of ex-Com Guard led by a mech warrior named Raven Armistead. Around the time that Comstar was disbanded, they branched off to form their own mercenary company. The first thing that you're going to do when you go to generate a new force using this system is to make a blank force overview sheet. The force overview sheet is just meant to be a nice, tidy way for you to keep all of the information about your force together, and it's going to automate some of the things like mathematical calculations that you'll need to do between missions when you say generate the payout for each mission. The first actual step of creating your force is going to be fleshing out the details of that leader. So just some basic things like what year were they born, what's their name, what's their call sign. After that, you're going to get to customize some of the skills that they have. Two of the skills are going to be really familiar. They're just gunnery and piloting. And we've got a few other skills that are going to dictate some of the mechanics that occur between missions. Raven is a pretty skilled pilot in terms of her gunnery, but she's just about average in terms of most mech warriors when it comes to controlling the mech. She's an okay leader. As a tactician, she's pretty skilled. Her resourcefulness is an 8, which is actually the worst it can get. I figured this was thematic because she's never actually had to manage the finances of a force before. She was simply an adept commanding a level 2 in the Com Guard. She also has a special command ability. This is something that every leader gets to choose. It's one special rule that's going to impact every unit in the force when your commander is deployed on the battlefield. For Raven, it's going to allow them to be extra accurate at long-range attacks at the beginning of a mission. Once you've got your leader's details in place, you're going to get to choose a force archetype. The 4 force archetypes are going to be government forces. In other words, they're a force that's backed by some superpower in the universe. Mercenary forces, which are independent forces that are working all on their own and being hired out by governments and others in order to do the dirty work for them. Pirate forces, which are groups of pilots and other folks who are simply trying to live by any means possible. That often means violence and robbery and all sorts of other fun stuff. And then finally, we've got clan forces. They're backed by a powerful government, but they're also highly regimented, and they have access to some really amazing technology. The Hospitallers are a mercenary force. What this means for them at the outset of a campaign is that they're going to have an easier time acquiring a wide variety of mechs. When you acquire mechs in the system, you have to roll to see if they're available to you, and mercenaries have a little bit easier time of that since they're not quite as tightly regimented. Mercenaries also get a bonus on their pay when they complete a contract, so they're going to be able to make a little bit more money when they're successful. You also get to generate an interesting background for your force that's totally random. This is meant to be something that's supposed to help inspire the narrative of some of your early games and maybe give you a reason to collaborate with your opponent on why your two forces might be fighting each other. The background that I generated for the Hospitallers this time around was the Cursed Machine. The description for the cursed machine says that our forces recently stumbled onto a valuable mech whose pilot was killed in the course of piloting it. And after cleaning the machine out and getting it ready for use, something that we realized was that many pilots have met their demise inside of this ancient but valuable mech. It's going to allow us to draft a special mech into our force, and the mech is more susceptible to being headshot. And then finally, whichever force is holding this cursed but valuable mech has their leader's resourcefulness skill improved by 1. Other forces might see this cursed machine and think to themselves, I want to go for the headshot on that mech, salvage it, and make a little bit more money. The next step in the force creation process is going to be choosing a dropship. Your dropship is going to be the main way that your units and your forces are transported throughout the universe. So it's going to determine what kinds of units you can acquire and how many, and it's going to give you access to some special abilities during missions. The Hospitalers are going to be riding around in a broadsword, which, if you know your Battletech lore, is actually a clan dropship. The way I've explained this is they had a broadsword lying around in one of the hangars from their time at the Battle of Tukiad when they were part of the Comm Guard. The broadsword's cool because it has a decent amount of cargo capacity compared to a dropship like a Leopard, and it allows them to field 5 mechs. Now, I know that the Comm Guard are more likely to be running vehicles and other mixed forms of units rather than just putting mech warriors down on the field. So something I might do throughout the course of the campaign is actually repurpose 1 or 2 of those mech bays into a vehicle bay. After you have decided on your dropship, the next part of force creation is going to be actually drafting the units in your force. I wanted to start with a pretty small collection of models that I have here that are some of the more recent that I've painted up in this color scheme. I know that I want Raven to be piloting a Marauder because it happens to be one of my favorite mechs, and the Marauder that I've painted here is actually the Clan Buster variant of the Marauder that the Comm Guard deployed at Tukiad, so I think it would be a really thematic ride for her. I also knew that I wanted a more mobile, scout-oriented mech. I feel like at the beginning of this campaign, they are going to be a mercenary company that's really going to be tight on their budget and might want to be deploying on some safer reconnaissance-style missions. It would be fun to have a vehicle or 2 in there, and maybe I can squeeze in an interesting mech to use as that cursed machine for that background trait that we generated earlier in the process. Okay, in the end, this is what I came up with. For the cursed machine, I actually decided I was going to take this opportunity to give myself an excuse to paint up this Phoenix Hawk model that I've had lying around. It's going to be a Star League era variant of the Phoenix Hawk, and I'll paint it up in some interesting way to show that maybe we repurposed it. I also drafted a Mongoose, which is going to help me on those reconnaissance missions, and another highly mobile unit. I've got a Warrior Attack VTOL here. It's relatively cheap compared to the mechs in the Force. If someone snipes a VTOL down, our mercenary company isn't going to go bankrupt replacing it. In the end, I feel really excited about this starting force. It's a small, scrappy force, but over time, as we play some missions and hopefully make some money, we'll be able to draft new units into the force, customize our dropship so that it has appropriate bays for perhaps some bigger, heavier vehicles, and we'll be able to tell some stories with our friends. I want to make sure this video doesn't end up too long, so I'm probably going to leave it there. I might make another video explaining what the mission generation process looks like, how mission rewards are generated, and how things like pilot progression and force maintenance work. If you're interested in trying it out, it's completely free to download the PDF. You can go and follow the link in the description to this video. If you want to leave any feedback from me or have any questions as you start to dive into this system, I've also created a brand new Discord server for it. The Discord server is not meant to be a big social hub. It's going to be really focused on asking questions and providing feedback for this campaign system. I hope that you have fun sifting through the primer, and if you're interested in seeing more and having me explain some more in a video format like this, please let me know. I'm going to keep working on it regardless, and I'm really excited to see how it goes from here.